Okay, so good afternoon. I am Anto Budiarjo, and this is Monday Live. This is something that we do every Monday afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern as we try and figure out the future for smarter buildings. It's great to have you with us today. In case you're wondering who we are, the profiles are listed on mondaylive.org, so head over there. And just a reminder that the conversation this hour is the views of this conversation this hour are personal and not of any company or organization. Keep that in mind, and let's make this interactive on the Zoom chat. If you want anything on the slide deck, it is available on mondaylive.org, right there on the homepage. So this being the 1st of June, the first of a new month, we are starting a new theme of readiness. So this is what we're going to be talking about in the next 5 weeks, starting now. And the agenda today, our normal news and chit chat, and then on readiness is really how ready are we to take this industry and this subject into the next chapter, whatever that is. But before that, as always, going to hand it over to Ken Sinclair for some news. Ken.
Great. Lots of things going on, as always. Happy month to everyone. First day of the month of June. Up in the top left-hand corner, what I did is I took the little poke at AI to try and find out what kind of resources exist to read these RDF files. And it offered 3 solutions right off the bat. So this is kind of important, I think, because we're all sort of favoring this as one of the ways of organizing our data. And it's useful that we can actually, as humans, go and look at these files and interrogate and make sure that what we're validate, I guess, is the word we're looking for. And I think Kimon is going to provide us some more information about that. Below that is our summary from last week, what BASIC actually means right now. I think that came good, got pretty good response. Lots of folks poked at it. Below that, the Monday we were off, Kelly chose to write this data. Was all there along why BIM to BAS handover is a gap that no one's talking about. What she did is she asked AI, what is it we're not talking about? Which is probably a good question to ask AI. And so that's kind of a result of that. Below that, we've got 5 global trends reshaping building automation. Occupancy well-being is a mission critical. That's by Johnson Controls. And below that is a smart building design symposium series that's being put on by Cochrane, by their buildings consulting group. Gregory is leading that. So that's happening, I think, next week. If you click on it, you can find out what's going on. Just moving along the bottom there is a post from Thomas, and he's talking about the old garbage in, garbage out thing. With the new reality is when we use AI fixes some of our garbage, and if you actually come at it in a reality kind of way, going there. Zara just sends us, Ken, I heard that she's got a great contributing editor coming, and of course that's her. She's very modest, but we're looking forward to her first post. So that's great. Thanks, Sarah. The next one over is Kimon's, and it's a real world and a simulated world. It's a great article. And then another one that surprised me was the biggest source of carbon emissions in the building is often invisible. This is from our Brazilian company, and I was quite surprised at the interest in that. And I think it was up over 600 or 700 folks kind of poking around at that. And then the one I really came from left field is I never considered a song as a medium to share our powerful messages, but our contributing editors are having fun and educating the world. And as you guys are all aware, the AI can write a song if you feed it some content and feed it choose a, a venue, or basically a style that you want it to be presented in, and push the button, and this is what happens. But it's kind of a funny thing that they've actually put a whole bunch of powerful messages, and it celebrates the work that Thomas Tran has been doing, which we're very proud of all of his work as well as a contributing editor. And kudos to all of our contributed editors. I'm very proud of them and what the way they're sharing their messages with the industry, and then also now that they're starting to share their thoughts with each other and supporting each other. And I think that's another growing place. It's a place that we can have a discussion and people can watch what we're discussing. Back to you, Anto.
Thank you, Ken. And over to Mr. Justis. What's going on at C4SB?
Well, it's June, and so over on the right, we got the notification of the town hall. Now we're to get the first day in June, which is this coming Thursday, which may have snuck up on a few of us, but we're going to have the focus of the town hall be about digital building profiles and something more about UDMI as well. But we're also going to oh, look, on this screen, there's two new icons. We actually have a UDMI graphic and an open building controls interest group icon. And they've graduated from just being listed as potential to actually now having a little icon to describe them. And the schedule of meetings for those will also be something that we talk about on the town hall, as well as the schedule for the other ones. And if you go to the next page, there we go. Y'all are you're gonna see this two-pager, which is a something we're using to try and get bring attention to the different ways for companies and individuals to contribute as members. So this two-page member prospectus summary is something that we're going to have on the website that people can distribute, and we're also going to have it as again, it's in PDF, so it can be something that can be attached to emails for anybody who's interested in understanding what's happening with C4SB and needs a quick summary of how they can be involved and what the different interest groups and working groups are. So this two-pager will be sort of a starting point for a lot of different conversations. And then, like I said, on the town hall, we're going to dig into details on one working group or another. I'm pretty excited about the status of the digital building profiles working group, because it kind of is it's going to kind of be a centerpiece for what a lot of the other working groups can point to as a reference model or reference models for what digital buildings can or should be. So fun stuff going on there. And
will Peter be posting that on automated buildings? I think that would be a worthwhile document, or at least the links to that document.
That's a great point. Yes, that's what we intend for this to be used as, is kind of a document that can be become a common thing. So having it on automated buildings makes a ton of sense. That's a great point.
I'll contact Peter then. Thanks.
Great. I'll make sure he has the updated one.
I'll make sure you make sure that I can't be sure that.
Rick Zara asked a question on chat. Is the digital building profile still a closed group?
What? Yes, we had a little bit of a core group trying to bring some definition to do we need something called digital building profiles? What would be the purpose of it? What would it look like? And as of this Friday, it'll be a working group official, and it'll comply with the Linux spirit of being totally open. It was just keeping it as sort of I don't like the word closed, and the Linux Foundation doesn't like the word closed either, but as a core group of figuring out how to get something launched, it kind of made sense to have there be a series of meetings that were sort of off the radar a little bit. But it'll be open as of Friday, and And that's a key thing that David Wiltz is going to talk about on Friday.
Okay, good. Thank you, Rick. Anything else from anyone? Hearing nothing, we shall proceed to our topic of the month, or our theme of the month, readiness, and put this sort of image together just for the whole month, just to sort of guide us in the conversation. So that's kind of just the framing of the month. But I am actually going to hand it over to Kimon, who has a presentation queued up, and I'm going to stop my share. And Kimon, if you can share your slide deck.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. See my screen? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So thanks, Anto, for setting this up. And we're going to be going into a presentation. And one thing that we talked about in preparation for this is we've presented quite a bit about the PAE building and all the details about it and the RDF, and we got technically in the weeds, and we've been posting a lot of material on automated buildings, including videos. But I'm going to bring it back to the basics and readiness, and that's kind of the theme of what I want to talk about. I've been involved with the PAE building for over a year now, but for the first time, I physically went there last week. So this is a report from last week in many ways. I won't get into the details of what the PAE building is, because we presented about this before this. We will send you links if you haven't seen it. But today's about how did we get the PAE building ready and actually carrying out the duocracy, as we call it in the Linux Foundation, of getting everybody involved and participating. So some just quick bullets of what my view of this basic readiness. When you start talking about buildings or assets, you need to know, where is it? What is it called? What does it do? What is it connected to? Why is it even there? And that's where a lot of the technical details of ASHRAE 223P and the RDFs that we talked about. It's not just about information about that asset that exists, that pump or that air handling unit, but why is it there? What's it doing? What's its mission? What is the objective of the building? Because the same asset has completely different needs depending on where it is and what it's doing. So one thing we're not going to do today, like I mentioned, is get into the weeds, but if anybody has questions, we can get into technical details, but I'll point to them. And I want to kind of bring it back to, if we use the PAE building as an example, what we need to be ready to be able to have access from a digital twin perspective, or a living building perspective, or even getting information of the assets, we need some kind of shared registry, if we call it a registry, just like there's a phone number registry so we don't get duplicate phone numbers on our cell phones, and there's a domain registry for the web for URLs. What's missing in the industry is a building registry. Although some owners, like we presented, the California Community Colleges, does have a registry of buildings. They own it, they put it on their server, they have an API. So at any point, as I'm working with them, I can see, what has the building name changed? Has this room changed? Has the number changed? Because if we rely on PDFs or Excel files, it gets out of sync immediately. Imagine managing a phone number registry with PDFs. It used to be like that, the yellow pages, right? But now it's all real time. And then what we're doing with PAE, we have an operational registry. Because there's not a national registry of buildings and spaces, we said, okay, if we have a PAE registry of what's in it, we parked it on Cloud BIM. It doesn't have to ultimately be there. Whoever maintains and manages that, whether it's the owner of the building, the city, a vendor, or whatever, there has to be kind of a source of, where do I get the latest information? Because without that, you can't do live access and interaction at scale in real time with the data. So that's where number 4 comes in. So it's kind of the basic structure. It's kind of boiling it down to simple things. And if we have this in place, I'll show you what happens next. We're already used to using Uber to find a ride. We don't print out a PDF of what rides are available. We don't share Excel files to say, here's the latest ride. No, we go to the web, we log in with our number. It knows who we are. Even if we're in a foreign country, we can use Uber and find a restaurant. It's the simple interface with close to zero training. You just pick it up and start using it. Yeah.
Could you make that full screen?
Oh, it's not full
What we're
screen.
looking at is you're looking at your desktop and we can see it, but it's just kind of small.
Oh, sorry. I guess I got the wrong. Hold on a second.
Oh, sorry. I'm an old guy and I can't reach fine print. There, that's better.
Oh, that's better. Okay. I got the wrong
See what
screen
you're
share.
talking about.
Okay. So
thank you.
those are the registry things, and then the training and the use of Uber. So think of this as a baseline. All the users out there are expecting to get their Uber ride or their restaurant or their information or reserve it or buy something in real time. The building industry is not there. And that's what C4SB and the PAE building, that's what we're doing. We're shifting that expectation to say this is actually possible today. And you don't have to solve it. You don't have to understand the complexity in the background of RDF and everything that we keep talking about. And a reminder, the PAE building, I walked into it for the first time physically. I saw what we keep seeing online and in meetings, amazing systems just packed with data, 3,000 assets that we're tracking in here, 127,000 RDF triplets, but let's not talk about the details. Let's get down to one asset. So interesting exercise that I did last Thursday. As we were walking through, we spent about 2 or 3 minutes per room with Stephen kind of Lothrop from PA walking us through and saying, this is this, and here's this, and here's a battery, and here's a panel, naming it off. We took that audio file and we fed it, and I was capturing it on my mobile phone, just capturing what he was saying. And I was capturing pictures and videos and even putting in work orders. And then I fed it through just ChatGPT and said, can you turn what he's saying into a list of assets? And we did this last year as well, too. So this is a simple way of capturing things, additional information into the registry. And this is important. It captured it into the right room number because we have a registry of room numbers live online. I didn't make a mistake and say this is room 101 or 102. Boom, it goes right in. Same thing with assets that are listed. We started seeing the assets in the rooms, and it matched up with the registry and said, okay, we see a panel or a fire panel or whatever. It says it probably belongs to this. This is just from audio of the video file that we talked with him. And I was also taking the images with my phone and adding additional assets. So the point here is, end users, just like you working with Uber, can find the latest data of a building if there's a registry, if it's in the cloud, if it's real time, and they can add information to it. And the RDF and the complexity in the background maintains those relationships and even checks for potential errors. And we have a lot of other AI tools we're going to talk about, but including going all the way to energy analysis. But here's the famous battery room in the PAE building. There's 8 of these things in the building. In the registry as of last week, we did not have the ID information of each of these panels. It was somewhere in a list, but it was not associated with the model. So when I was there, I captured what he was saying. I captured the labels, and then I created QR codes after I got back. And now I want you guys to actually try this. This is the QR code. This is how somebody that knows, like calling up an Uber. If you scan the QR code, I'll show you on the side what happens, but you can try it yourself. Scanning the QR code gets you directly to that room. So if I go into the building and say I want to see the building, it'll find the room automatically. And the scan is actually scanning, and it would actually fill in the name of that battery. It's called B4 or something like that. I'm typing it in here, but scanning this on the asset locates it in the room. And this could be from thousands of buildings, tens of thousands of spaces. It doesn't matter. It's like Ubers and rides, all real time. So the technology is not magical. It's just the fact that through this C4SB effort and PAE, we actually made this accessible, and we're building on top of this. And this is for the assets that are tracked in the building. And there was some discussion about last week about are the assets ready in the PAE building? Are they not? They've been there for quite a long time. There's still a lot of missing information because some of the systems in the PAE building are still in black boxes that we can't get to, but there's enough there to do a lot with it to start having a conversation with the building. So let me pause here before I go on. And if you guys want to try it, go ahead, and what you do here is you put your name in and you submit a work order, and that's it. It doesn't show you a list of assets. It doesn't say, what do you want about RDF? It just says, I am in this room. Something's going on. There's water on the floor. As simple as that. Now, this is our system, the Onuma system, BIM Genie, but you could create another app on top of. When you have APIs, you can build other applications on top of it. In fact, there are other applications that I want to add assets or whatever. Once you have the infrastructure in place and it's ready to be used, and there's a live API, and there's control of how you get to it, and it's simple to build on top of, others can build apps on top of this literally in minutes now. Comments or questions? I'm not tracking the chat, so I don't know if there's anything over there, but let's see. Okay, so let's keep going. All right, so we got Zara and Tristan tried it out and it worked. Okay, submitted a work order. And then what happens? So let's move on to what does the admin see? So this is the view of the person in the building that knows nothing about BIM, knows nothing about RDF, knows nothing about data, just knows they're in the room and something's going on in that room. That's the goal here. I need a ride on an Uber. I'm in this room, I'm not comfortable. I'm in this room, this pump is on fire, whatever. Then what happens is the technician gets an email. I'm putting on a completely different hat here. I am the technician. I get a request that the battery and whatever something's happening with the battery in that room. So I can say, search for the component. There's the battery systems in the building. So there's B4. And if I look at B4, it has additional attributes. So only the technician needs to see this level of detail. The occupant in the room could care less about barcode number or voltage or whatever, but the technician does want to see that. And if they want to search other components in the building, you could say, okay, find other things that are pumps. And Tristan's going to show this capability later using AI even. When data is structured like this, you can start searching through the RDF or the data and find, oh, there's a fuel pump in the cistern. There's a fuel pump in this room. Is that important to what that water is leaking or whatever? Then you click on that, and you get the details, and it gives you additional information. So the point is that each user has a different view of the exact same data, and this only works if it's real time. Because if that pump was moved this morning, if a new pump was installed, or if somebody serviced it 5 minutes ago and I'm going back to service it, you might be doing the wrong thing. And we've seen a lot of examples from industry like that where technicians go out and even rip out the wrong air handling unit because they don't know where it is on the site or on the roof, and they pulled it out. So this real-time access is exactly how Uber works. You can't call an Uber with a PDF or Excel. You want it in real time. And there's a lot more. I'm not going to get into technical details. There's admins that can go in further. They can go all the way into the 3D view of it. They can go into an AI query and start having a conversation with saying, how's this pump connected to this other thing? And all of this in the PAE building with the RDF and the ASHRAE 223P we're seeing how things are connected now. It's not just the fact that there's a pump in that room. It's the fact that the pump is connected to a panel that's connected to electricity, that's putting water into whatever, and if that thing goes down, it's not going to support the need of that room. Okay, I'll pause there. If no questions, I'll keep going. You guys can keep trying this there if you want. Okay, so what we just saw was the request. Simple interface. In the background, there's a full RDF, 122,000 triplets, 3D if you want, BIM if you want, SkyCentrix and live data. The Dream platform is back there if you want to have a conversation with the energy, which Tristan's going to show in a little bit. And then the next view is the technician that gets the request and has access to the asset information. The occupant cannot see the asset information, the pump warranty information or whatever, but the technician can, and they can interact with the occupant, and they can even drill into more and more detail. So the point here is as you connect systems, you can have many different types of users and use cases. You can even build new apps on top of it. As long as there's an open connection, It's not in a black box. As long as there's an API, as long as there's the ASHRAE 223 connectivity between systems, you can start asking the systems how they're connected to each other. What happens if I turn off this shut off right here? Is it going to affect the occupants on the 3rd floor, for example? All right, so let's keep going here. So how can others interact with this? Because that was a question last week, Ken, you asked. If I don't know anything about RDF, I don't know anything about BIM, I don't know anything about Onuma system, how do I interact with the assets in this building? Well, the API can create a table, a list of assets. This is the name of the room, where the name of the asset, the BESS is the battery system there, the ID of it, and the important thing are these IDs. If we get consistent IDs, then you can export an Excel file. You can take this Excel file offline and say, here's a list of what we have here. If you're going to be delivering a new battery to this room, we want you to not duplicate the ID numbers. Tell us which room number is in 127 battery room, not 127 ABC or 127 345, whatever. It's use these IDs. So this is the registry of the building, whether it's maintained by Onuma, the building owner, the city, whoever is maintaining that registry as source of truth. There can only be one place that happens and broadcast out for everybody to use it. Then it can make its way into an Excel file. And we've done this before. We've handed this to technicians that don't want to use mobile phones, that want to use a spreadsheet to say, well, here's a spreadsheet of what we have. Add 3 things to this, give it back to us when you deliver your equipment in, and you won't get paid until you fill in those forms, those IDs. Very simple, 3 or 4 pieces of info, and it automatically aligns with the existing system. Nothing complicated about that. If they don't do that and they give it in a different format, then you say, well, what room is it in? We need to go find it. We need to hire a team, go find the equipment, put the right number in it, put it back into the CMS, IWMS system. If it's all connected in real time, it doesn't matter. The next level up is not just a spreadsheet, but an API. If you have capability to read an API, in other words, it's automated, you have a URL endpoint. In fact, I'll show it live here. So here is the live version. This is a Google Sheet that's reading from the Onuma Registry API to give me a list of spaces and list components in the PAE building. If somebody goes into the plan and adds another pump or adds another SkyCentrix Super Skybox and we put it in the registry, it immediately shows up on this list. And why does it show up on a spreadsheet? Because this spreadsheet is reading from an API, and here's the API. It looks kind of techy, but this is a list of all the spaces in the PAE building and their attributes and their floor finishes and an ID and the name and whatever else. And here's a list of all the assets in the building with an ID and everything. Literally tens of thousands of pieces of information. It looks too techy here, but it's the same information that ends up in the spreadsheet. If I say, well, I just want a spreadsheet. Okay, you got a spreadsheet. Okay, so I'll pause there in case there's anything. Okay, so this is an important slide. I've been trying to decide how to describe the difference here. And this is kind of boiled down to really simple terms, hopefully. But this is very important. A lot in the building industry are using file formats like Revit files. I'm involved with Building Smart, so IFC is used to say, let's export the engineering model from the engineer's model and import it into and merge it with the architectural model. It's a file exchange. You get this whole big bucket, you extract it and you put it, and it's really important that we have these open formats like PDF and CS. There's nothing wrong with this. It's just that that's a different use case when teams are working together to coordinate. It's not real time usually, although there are ways to make this more real time, but it's one big bucket of the PAE building as an IFC file is 990 megabytes. The Revit model of the PAE building is 330 megabytes and on and on. So that's a file format. The RDF file is about 18 megabytes because it strips away all the geometry and it's just the meanings, the relationship of here's the pump connected to this electrical panel. It's still a file. It's a really important file because it captures the meaning of how the wiring diagram of how things are connected. What I've been talking about is live access. Cloud BIM, as we're calling it, C4SB. When you get into the cloud and you want to call an Uber, you don't call an Uber with a PDF. You don't call an Uber with an Excel. You call it with your mobile device that's connected live to APIs online to call up that room number or that Uber. How does it know how the systems are connected? Because in the RDF and in the Cloud BIM as well, those connections show the pump connected to the electrical system. How does it know where it's located? Because we've taken the file base of the Revit and the BIM files and moved it into live Cloud BIM simple geometry. You can only work live operationally with this format. If you can still use these, but as soon as you disconnect, you need to go synchronize and bring it back into the live format. So that's the big difference. So it's not that RDF is the wrong format, it's absolutely the right format for capturing meaning and giving a whole big bucket of everything inside it. It's not the right format for doing live API connections to. There are ways of extracting things and everything, but you need some kind of a live API connection. All of these snapshots are all incredibly important, but irrelevant when you get into live connections. So what happened last week in the PAE building, we had Cloud BIM running for the PAE building. We had a Revit model of the PAE building, and we were keeping it in sync because it was still in development. We were still testing and developing and everything. And a decision was made from now on as we go into operations, let's update the data live in the Cloud BIM format. Okay, so let's move on from that unless there's any questions. So use case example with SkyCentrix and the PAE Living Building as of even months ago, maybe even 6 months ago. Once we started seeing the SkyCentrix data of those batteries in the PAE building, we were triggering live work orders. Instead of going in and manually saying, hey, this battery's not working, the battery's talking through the cloud from SkyCentrix into Onuma, into BIM Genie to trigger a work order. And you can swap out the names here. It's not about Onuma or BIM Genie. If other systems work with this open format, then you can plug things in. The other important thing is it's not proprietary and open or open source. It's all of them together. We're working with Revit, we're working with Onuma, we're working with SkyCentrix, we're working with Excel, which is proprietary but has an open format for communicating. So it's about getting proprietary tools to communicate in an open format. And that's foundational, I think. And once you get those levels of openness to it, then you can start cross-cutting across systems like this. Okay, Cloud BIM is a C4SB working group, one of the groups that you saw up there. We're launching as of today the cloudbim.org domain to a website that links over to the GitHub repositories. The Cloud BIM website is more public facing to make it easy for non-technical participants to see what we're doing. We have a lot of material already posted here. We're going to be publishing some new material soon there. And there are links to the presentations if you want to see more about the PAE building. And we have links to Monday Live. And I'd like to get Tristan, if you're on. Yes, let's see, I see you there. So I'm going to promote you to a panelist. Tristan, are you there? Can't hear you.
Yeah, hello everybody.
There you go. So Tristan, I thought maybe you can describe, there's a lot more material that we presented together about the PA building, but I thought it'd be interesting to talk about the AI interface that you guys built into the building. And I have the short video.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So you're going to play that video.
Yeah.
We'll also share a link to this video in the chat if people want to see it later. So go ahead, Kimon. Let's get sound.
Sound is you're going to be talking, I think.
Oh, all right. Okay. So we're going to ask some queries. And what's happening here is that we're querying the documents, the RDF, and the live data at the same time. So this is an answer of what room is the battery storage in. It tells you the room, and it tells you the source documents, the submittals, and the as-builds for that, so that if you want to go find that now, there's actually a link. Just like in some chat GPTs and others, you can see a click on the link and you go straight to the document. This next one is what's the total battery capacity of the building? Reference the as-built and the live data. Don't necessarily need to say that, but it's going to do both. So notice that it did not say what is the data point of the total battery capacity of the building. So it's actually able to reference the following. So it says that the battery capacity is 260 kilowatt hours. The live telemetry shows you what it's actually doing. From the as-built, it turns out that this was what you were expecting, but the total usage is this. And again, you have the documentation. This can be used to both sort of create reports and graphs. So what you see next is it's saying, please graph the total building power use past 7 days. Again, you're going to see this strange data point. We never mapped it to total building power use. It just looks at all the data, looks at the documentation, and says, oh, what you're trying to do is, and it's going to add the graph to the left. So we have an automated reporting function. It's schedulable, shareable. You can schedule these on a monthly, daily, quarterly basis. Can you scroll down a little bit? Oh, I think it did that. So the next thing that we're going to do is add to that graph, add another question. And you'll notice that the graph is live, right? So when we send you a weekly report, it increments every week so that you can see a heat map or a graph of everything in your email and know, hey, everything's still working fine. Now we're asking a more complicated question. What time did the maximum export occur and what time did the peak demand occur during this period? So this is part of peak demand charge management. And I think globally, everybody should realize that once you get the data and once you have AI at least participating to human natural language query like you're seeing, that means that automated, automagical controls are next, right? What we call human approved, autonomous controls with guardrails that have been input, obviously, to make sure that you don't have AI doing anything that hasn't been guardrailed and human approved. So the AI answered about the total building power usage. It changed it live. It answers what the maximum export and peak demand was so that you can do analysis on your peak demand charges. And then it says, hey, add a heat map graph of total building power draw over the past 30 days. The assistant says, great, I did that. And again, this is publishable, shareable, and schedulable. And I think that's about it.
Thanks, Tristan. Yeah, so this actually, what was just shown was you're using the same data I showed earlier. This is the PAE building that you're having a conversation with the actual data in relation to the assets and the spaces and everything that we have. So the alignment that we did through this project through C4SP on the PAE building, because we had these IDs aligned and we had a registry that we were sharing, essentially, we're talking about the same rooms and the same data, and that scales quickly once you have that alignment in place. Because we all know that a lot of this effort that goes on in industry, because there's competing silos, the majority of the work is just getting things aligned and even being able to do something. And by then it starts splintering again, and you end up with a bunch of files and documents and scattered digital formats. So, any thoughts or questions here?
Yeah, so everybody should just know I posted the link. It's not a YouTube sort of discoverable and searchable link, but the link to that video with the AI portion starts around 4:40. We did that actually at an ALN webinar, and so it's already 2 months old. So happy to show people live anytime they're interested, but the video link is there.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Well, everything's.
Hey, Tristan de Froneville, can you augment that analysis? Can you can I rag it, right? Can I send some other documents up while I'm?
Yeah, so you can send any documents you want for the building up into the platform. And we've even talked about enabling large organizations to use their own tokens, right? So we're trying to just build infrastructure that's usable by PAE engineers, by Kimon, by partners, by large organizations, right? Infrastructure to get data out of buildings and make it usable, as you just said.
Right. Cool.
And I guess maybe Tristan, one thing that would be interesting to talk about in relation to where are we with the PAE building? There's still some things that are missing, right? We don't have everything there because some of the systems are not accessible, like the pump on the first floor and whatever. They're in black boxes. In fact, when I was walking through with Stephen, some of the dashboards on the equipment that we were looking at, he goes, yeah, this is our only dashboard to the data of this piece of equipment. We can't see it anywhere else except when I walk up to the equipment, I look at the metrics on the screen, and the only thing that can get past it if we put a little camera there and connect it to the internet so we can see what it is. But other than that, what was on BACnet and what you were able to read through SkyCentrix, we started cataloging and linking those things together. There's still more to do, but I don't know if you have a count of how many assets. I think we have 3,000 assets in the model in the Cloud BIM, the pumps and the battery systems and the PVs on the roof and everything. And out of those 3,000, quite a few of them are linked, but there's still some that are quote unquote orphans or in their silos still.
Well, it's important to state that generally they're only there because they literally don't have a connection. If anything has a Modbus or a BACnet connection, we can connect to it. Ironically, there's two Lochinvar water heaters. SkyCentrix came from a water heater background, and Lochinvar has been promising us new boards that have connection. And we've got utilities and everyone else begging them, because what they want to do, what PAE wanted to do right out of the get-go is, hey, we have solar and battery. We'd love to delay the water heating on a hot day with full of sun and then feed those water heaters only from solar and battery, which is a no-brainer, super useful. The first commercial building water heater manufacturer that comes out with a 120-gallon tank that historically has been able to avoid all of the regulations from AHR about connectivity, they're gonna sell a lot. And I think, Kimon, to answer your question about sort of what things are dark or, God forbid, actually available to be connectable but locked up in some vendor way. I was on a blog cast recently where I was interviewed, and somebody said, I was recently at a semiconductor manufacturing conference, and they said, look, anybody who wants to keep their walled garden silos and not make their data available for AI is going to be replaced. And I think, that's the world that's coming for these vendors. So hopefully the more they open up, the more they can play in the new world.
Yeah, that's actually the main message here, isn't it? This is all technical, there's nothing technically holding us back from making this happen. The technology is not the issue. It's things that are closed and owners that are not asking the right questions. And if the owners like PAE start saying, we demand on our next building that these systems are opened, then they just won't specify it unless it is open.
We're going to, and this is one of the fine points of, we've been saying that all the technology is there and we could do this for a while. It's like, we're going to give people an out by saying the technology has not been there. And that's being nice to people, is to say, well, it's true. We now have some new technology that allows us to do some things that weren't possible before. Part of that is being nice to the vendors or being nice to everybody to say, and back to the what is in the PAE building that we are not seeing. That's a big part of what is the case in every building. We see the stuff that's actually accessible, we jump on it, and this is fantastic, right? This is what happened with the PAE adventure starting a year ago. We jump on what's available, and we kept walking past the different systems that are not available, which is now where we're kind of circling back to. It's like, well, the Lochinvar we always knew from the very beginning, which was kind of funny. We talked about the Lochinvar as if it was the only thing in that building that wasn't accessible. It's not. There's other
Right, but it was the first one they wanted,
Right.
Yeah.
It was, of course, it was the one that they wanted. It's the one that we know how to work with. Every model of Lochinvar except for that one kind of thing. And so it was like fun to kind of point out the Lochinvar water heaters were not connectable, but there's other systems in the building also
Yeah.
that are not accessible, a lot of them. And to the point Tristan made is like, and the thing you just saw, Kimon, when you were there standing in front of that Siemens system, there's a whole bunch of information on the Siemens system and on the LG system and on the solar array that is not being exposed through BACnet or Modbus that
Mhm.
that we're going to start to kind of point at those vendors. How come I can see it when I walk up to it and touch the interface, but I can't see it digitally out of the Modbus or the BACnet interface? And
Yeah.
that starts to shine a light on to what Tristan is saying. Vendors who don't make it available will be replaced. And owners, that's one of the things we want to help owners to understand is how to ask the right questions so that you can decide whether to replace the vendor or give them a few months to come up with a way to get it connected. But a big part of what we're going to talk about on Friday with C4SB on the digital building profiles process. And one of the reasons, yes, Sarah, it's been a closed set of meetings. One of the reasons we're we're opening it up is because we want to use the digital building profiles process to shine a light on what's in the building, how is it connectable, and then really shine a light on, well, why isn't it connectable and why isn't it connected already? Why
Yeah.
isn't it exposed already? And then the good news is what you guys have been showing for the last, 30 or 40 minutes is anything can be exposed in a real basic way. It probably can be. And to the point you made earlier, you could even point a camera at the darn interface, make the interface live 24/7, and use the
Mhm.
camera to see what's available, to what's
Yeah.
happening.
With AI or whatever.
Right. I always used
It's
to say,
actually,
what's the best way to see what the temperature is in the boiler room? It's like point your iPhone at it, do streaming, do
make sure you don't
FaceTime.
make sure you don't see a fire going. Actually, one thing with a PA building that's important, I think, for every other building out there and every other existing building is we did a triage, right? We walked in, we said, here are the things that we see, other things we can't see. We're going to bypass it because if a lot of owners make mistake and say, well, we need to be able to get to everything before we do anything. And then they wait for 10 years and they haven't done anything and they're sitting on a bunch of dead files. So you say, okay, you walk into a building. If you have to point a camera at that thing, you can actually probably get it. Let's start with that. Or let's find the pieces of equipment that are the most critical for whatever you're doing from a business perspective and isolate those, which is what we do with the community colleges as well. It's impossible to track 3,000 assets, but you can probably find the 20 critical ones and get to those and start something. Otherwise, the patient's going to die or the triage is not successful. That's essentially what you have to do, I think.
I think this is an interesting discussion, and it kind of reinforces thoughts I've been having about the whole push of AI, right, and the focus of AI. Because oddly enough, all the conversation you guys have been having, we've been having for, in my case, decades of time about, yes, we should integrate these and you should use, as a manufacturer, you should support BACnet and Modbus or LON or whatever as the protocols. And we've all been on those panels trying to force manufacturers down this path. But the value proposition always seemed to fall short for the manufacturer want to do so. What I see here, and this is a great real life example of this situation, is that AI is fundamentally changing the value proposition of why you need to be AI ready. And the term we use internally, Tristan, is AI ready. Rather than being open, we're kind of moving more to AI readiness than using terms like open and open protocols, because oftentimes folks I'm talking to can't spell BACnet, as a point. So we use the term open readiness. And then the other term you use too about, bypassing those that are not. And the other statement we use internally from a people perspective is if you're not using AI, a person using AI will replace you.
Right.
I think you can now extend that to systems itself, right? If you're not AI ready, then a system being AI ready will replace you, right? And I'm going to adopt that one moving forward. But it shows in that demo that you showed, right? And from my perspective, that's why I love this PAE building example about what is technically possible, and we all said it, right? The technology and the stuff that SkyCentrix and the team have done is all doable technology. And then now the AI capabilities has fundamentally changed the value proposition. And more importantly, the client now understands it, right? He goes, oh, these are things I can do. Everything that you showed on that thing, Tristan, you mean I don't have to go down to the bowels of the building and find that XP computer and try to remember the login and try to, and look for the temperature. I can just ask it. Okay, I get it now, right? And that changes the equation and the value, and the clients understand it because they're all doing it now in their world as well. And so it's been fascinating from my perspective that I think the whole advent of AI, especially in our space, is going to fundamentally drive what you guys have done at PAE. And the fact that you've done it at PAE, then to stand it up as a showcase, this thing should be showcased everywhere. And if you want to know how to do it, here's how you do it, right?
Yeah, and what we've done is right now that IBB Super Skybox gateway in the building is number one. That's what's delivering the data to Onuma, right? So they're not having to write to
Right.
an API. They're getting the pump straight from a GraphDB, the RDF on the database. Now, granted, the documents are up in the cloud, so that's separate for now.
That's fine. Yeah.
And then PAE is writing apps in Python that they're able to upload and download through the platform and actually write apps to the data so that they can write their own apps because they're actually ready to bring it to their customers and say, hey, historically, we specified the equipment and then we prayed that it was going to be installed correctly, commissioned correctly, labeled correctly, and now we'd like to offer you a service where we can plug in this IBB and you can, and we'll make sure it was labeled correctly, commissioned correctly, and we'll monitor it for the first year or two of warranty and make sure it stays correctly, set up the right alerts. And so they're super excited that they can also write their own apps.
And those apps, I just wanted to highlight those apps are good old fashioned on diskettes, right? No, it's a thumb drive. No,
It's up to the cloud and
these
down
are
to the box.
apps.
Yeah. And it's important
Right.
to,
Oh, right. It's running on the box. That's the important part. It's the important part is that the apps that they're writing are in containers on the box, just like in the good old days when we actually used to run programs on a computer. I mean, you remember those days, right? It's not that long ago that we actually had apps on computers that, it's funny kind of to think about because even with our phones, we think of the phone actually connecting to the cloud to run, but actually there's apps that are running on your phone. Newsflash, there's actually apps on your phone. And that I wanted, you almost have to point it out and being intentional about it is that it actually is really important for the on-prem component of what we're demonstrating. That's sure, you can run apps in the cloud too. We're all familiar with that. But the ability to have the containerized data on the on-prem is a huge point of differentiation and a point of a place where innovation can happen, and we want to stress that.
it's a hybrid that you can do it either way, depending on the use case, and then you have to also be prepared. And then the other thing that's really important here, I think, on the web now and then the digital twin discussions, you can see a lot of really flashy presentations about almost these exact same concepts. The difference is a lot of those are not accessible. They're created like another silo. So for example, the registry that I talked about, I could say, oh, wow, we finished the PAE building now, and I created the registry, and I have it in Onuma. I'm going to scramble all the names. And if you want to use those IDs, you have to come to me. No, it's the other way around. You can say, we're going to share those IDs because it's very easy for me to scramble the names, which is essentially what these silos are doing. They're creating their own random names, random IDs, not making it accessible. Then all of a sudden you have to go back to that one vendor. We're talking about an ecosystem that you can plug and play on-prem apps, in the cloud apps, different use cases, different scenarios, and this is the way to scale it.
Yeah.
I think more than anything, go ahead, Arno.
No, I just want to echo again. I think this is just if you wanted to have the case study of why this makes sense, this is it, right? I've not seen it anywhere else. I've not seen anyone else doing it, to this level, bits and pieces around the place, but not as a cohesive approach.
And I think what's also powerful about the building industry is it really is required to have a cloud native computing infrastructure where you have to have an on-premise solution that is almost as powerful as your cloud. And thanks to Rick as a guiding light, cloud native computing foundation, C4SB, Docker containers, Kubernetes, it's all a critical part of the infrastructure so that it's a full modern stack that has that premise solution. And obviously, the next step for us in the PAE, so everybody knows, we're putting in 3 of the IBB Super Skyboxes to actually start doing supervisory controls. 231 just came out with the open control sequences. And as PAE said, it's pretty funny. We're putting in 3 super skyboxes to have resilient, redundant supervisory control, but we don't know of any building that's put in 2 BMSs and 2 lighting control panels because it's just expensive and not as easy.
Yeah. I'm guessing, Ken, are you going to do an article on this whole PAE thing?
It's going to need a whole bunch of input from all the people. Actually, that's one thing that I've been noticing here is all of the pieces of this that you're pulling together and the need to keep that information live, like it can't be a PDF. It's got to be an active file. And so then we start to think about those active files, they have to be maintained by folks and they have to be, so we're kind of looking at a whole different structure there that it would be interesting to kind of flush that out, see how that happens. And the point you made, Anno, is just amazing. I hadn't thought of that, is we spent a lot of time on Monday Live and C4SB talking about how we had to get the people ready. But yeah, I think we have to focus back on getting the equipment ready and getting it AI ready, because if you can't get the data out of it, and I loved your thing is it's just a simple message. If you can stand on your horse and tell you're not going to get the data out of your system, but we're not buying your system, so get over it. So I saw that way back in the some of the work that they did in Detroit there at some of the work they did, and when they bought their heat pumps, they actually, I think, enforced them to provide a Modbus interface so they could actually see all of the bits and pieces, and it wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
Especially if you're buying 3,000 heat pumps or something, it's pretty easy to say.
Well, and
as
Tristan and Rick says, these days the technology's there. I mean, it's not hard to do. In fact, you can get AI to make it AI ready. So
Yeah. Well, but we've heard these conversations even in the last week or so from vendors that will remain nameless, that think that they can still add a proprietary gate on some of their most expensive highlight products that are like flying off the shelves. They're like, oh, hey, how can we put a gate on this data so you can't get it and you have to use my proprietary.
They use it as a marketing pitch. It's proprietary. That's good.
I know. Yeah,
Companies
that's work.
and the cool thing is we had a conversation with one of their main competitors the next day and told them that, hey, are you guys going to open up stuff? Because we got people who want to know whether or not we're going to have open protocols or whether you're going to keep trying to hide that protocol and hide that and make proprietary behind your walled garden. So the mentality hasn't been completely flushed, but what we want to do is we want to bring the examples of here's the use case so that the threat of well, we're just going to leave you on the sidelines and we're not going to allow you to even bid if you don't meet this criteria.
Yeah.
You got to have one of their competitors that'll do it.
Yeah.
I have to jump to
Great.
Thanks everybody.
Great discussion.
Thanks, Kimon.
Thanks for the invite. Have a
Thank
great
you.
I
day.
think
Thanks
we
for
should
the
try and
audience.
I'll try and close up here. But just wedge in a few words though, is back in the old days of DDC, we had that problem. And what happened? New people came on the scene and the old people wouldn't support BACnet, and it'll happen again.
I have a new name for that, Ken. I call it, sometimes the dinosaurs had to die.
But it's evolution, and evolution is occurring,
There you
and
go.
real pleased to be reporting that. And yes, I will try and put together the PD.
That would be good.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll
Thanks.
work with you on that, Ken.
till next
You bet.
Monday. Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you. That would be
Bye.
great.
Bye.